Friday mornings, we take a few minutes of our time and we chat with Forrest Andersen from Washington Street Pond right here in Twin Falls, Idaho. And of course, we should point out too that uh, the name is an all inclusive name, but at Washington Street Pond, too, they also sell some firearms and they can actually tell you a lot about firearms when it comes to actually ensuring that that's the right firearm for you. Because some of you, I picked up an old revolver a few weeks ago, and the thing must have weighed 6 pounds. Can you imagine walking around with something like that? People used to do that, obviously, and it was a different time, I suppose, and they must have been a lot tougher because I thought this would be one of those things you'd end up walking sideways before it was over. But first of all, we'd like to say welcome back.
Hey,
That is a critical thing to remember, obviously, is sometimes you look at a firearm and it looks so pretty, you say to yourself, I got to have that like an accessory. But, the idea is it's not there to look pretty. And sometimes you end up getting the wrong gun.
yeah, that's exactly right. You kind of have to differentiate your usage. Am I going to use this gun to go out and sport shoot? Target shoot. Is this a gun that I'm going to keep in my car all the time? So the size of the firearm isn't necessarily that important. Or is this something that I'm going to carry on my body? If it's going to be something you're going to carry on your body, size is a factor, and if you have some huge gun that's uncomfortable, that's pulling your pants down all the time, you're gonna quit. We talked about this last week. You're gonna quit carrying it. It's important to kind of pick for your application. And if you have two guns, there's nothing wrong with that. You have one that I go out and I've got a couple myself, and I got some that I use to go out to the range and shoot or shoot competition, and I've got some that I used to carry on me, and the ones that I carry on me are generally smaller in size, but they've they're a tool. They have an
Hmm.
application. Just like you got screwdrivers in your toolbox. You got big ones and little ones, all for different stuff. So
Right. One size is not going to work with screwdriver for everything.
exactly, and I think that's one thing you really need to focus on is um, I'm going to carry. If you've made that commitment, I do want to concealed carry. I've taken the training. I've done some practice. I do want to concealed carry, so now we got to start picking a gun. You come down and see us, and while we don't have everything made out there in our counter, there's a lot of different stuff. You can browse online. We can show you prices, and then once you get it, the other nice peace of mind is if you get it from me, then if you ever have a problem, you bring it back. I just replace it with a brand new gun. If you break that gun, we have a lifetime free replacement warranty on all our new guns. So.
We should point out, too, that's the thing people should remember with licensed dealers is you may not have everything immediately in stock, but you can get it. So if somebody says, this is what I want, and it's not necessarily there on the counter or under the counter, you can manage to get that in a couple of weeks or less often for people.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it takes 2 days. So let's say it's a Wednesday and you're like, "Oh, I'm going camping this week. I need this gun." If you order it on Wednesday, I'll have it in your hand on Friday. So, that's a great thing about with today's, the digital economy and dealing with these distributors is, it just takes a couple days to get stuff to you.
We had a conversation a couple of days ago about people who are now carrying, and sometimes, whether you like it or not, you do end up doing something on the highway that may not be the smartest thing to do, and you end up getting pulled over. What I guess the question becomes: do you then tell the trooper or the deputy or the police officer that you actually have a firearm in the car? And that's been a question a lot of people have been wrestling with. Do I tell them that, or do I just not say anything at all?
Well, I was talking to one of our local sheriffs the other day. Came into the shop Sunday. We're open Sundays, by the way, and he came in and he always browsed around and he was looking, and what he related to me is, if the firearm is going to be visible, then it's never a bad idea in a traffic stop to mention that, hey, by the way, I have a firearm in the car. Now, there's a lot of people who say, well, that's not their right to know. That's no one's right to know what I have and what I don't have. You got pulled over speeding. He didn't stop you because he's searching your car for a gun. And if you can legally own a gun, you got nothing to worry about. But your situation is going to be no different than if you walk into a restaurant and your server comes up and asks you, how can I help you today? And if you're a jerk to the server and you're like, don't ask me so many questions, I'll tell you what I want. If you're if you eat your food and somebody spit in it, that's pretty much on you because it's just common courtesy. If you're nice to her, she'll give you great service, and you'll be in and out of there, and you'll have everything that you paid for. Same thing with the police officers doing their job. If they pulled you over, there was some sort of traffic violation or perceived violation. They're not driving around pulling people over checking for guns. Now in Idaho now, you don't have to have a permit. So they're not going to know if there's a gun in that car or not. The first thing I do when I pulled over, if I have my gun in my car, I hand them my license and registration and say, by the way, officer, I do have a gun in the car. And their response 99% of the time is okay, just leave it where it is and we'll just do our thing and you can be on your way. Now, if you make a big production about that, then hopefully we have police officers in this community that are like, okay, this guy's acting nervous, this guy's acting combative. To me, in any other situation, I would deem that as okay, this guy's got something to hide. There's something wrong. Like, otherwise, why would he be so combative? So now you've just brought a bunch of tension on yourself that doesn't need to be there. Or if he's hit issue, let me see your registration, and you reach to get your registration, and then he sees a gun in the car, he's going to be nervous, because police officers get shot every day. So doesn't mean he's going to pull his gun on you, but he may ask, he says, is that a firearm? And, so it's just common courtesy. If you just treat them like you would treat your dry cleaning lady, if you would treat them like you treat your waiter or waitress at a restaurant, or you treat your doctor when you go in and see them. If you went and saw your doctor and you got immediately defensive and combative, they're going to either A, not want to treat you or not give you a great healthcare experience. So, yeah, just if you get pulled over, just have a conversation. Doesn't mean on the other side you don't have to say, "I have a gun. You want to see it?" Of course, he doesn't want to see it. You know, that's not what happens. So I think people just need to have a really common sense approach to that. Say, "Here's my
Mhm.
license registration. I do have a gun in the car." That'll probably be the end of the conversation because now he's like, "Okay, they got nothing to hide. They told me they have a gun. I'm comfortable with these people." So
Want to mention Forrest Andersen as our guest, and he's here until 9:30 this morning. If you have a question or comment for him, telephone number is 736-0300, 736-0300. And remember, he's here as a resource as well, because, of course, we no longer need that permit to carry. But, of course, a lot of people out there would like to remind you that doesn't mean that you shouldn't take your own personal responsibility and get some training done, too, as well. And that's why he's in studio with us, because, of course, he is I guess what you'd call an avid proponent of training and has done a lot of it himself. And of course, was reminding me during the break before we got on air, you need to constantly be up to speed with what you're doing. You can't just train once and then think that's good for 25 years.
people do that, and they train for self defense, and they think, "Well, I took a class. I'm good." Well, that'd be the equivalent of taking driver's training, never getting in a car again. And then 5 years later, you're in a situation where you have to evade someone who's chasing you in a car. Well, just the fact that you took driver's training 5 years prior to that is not going to help you. You're going to crash the car. Same thing in a self defense situation. So I took the class, I got the permit, I shot my gun 100 times, which is what state mandates. Okay, so 5 years from now, you're in a restaurant, somebody comes in, and they start shooting people. And you grab your gun, but guess who hasn't shot that gun in 5 years? Guess who can't remember where the safety is? Guess can't remember whether they carrying condition one or what the situation is. So now you are a liability. You are not an asset. So continued training is something that is a complete necessity. You need to go out there. You need to shoot on your own. You need to go out to decent ranges, with decent trainers. We were talking about Houston Shaw shooting. Um, what'd you think of that range?
When you mentioned that some of the buildings there are nicer than your house, and I thought nicer than anywhere I've ever lived too, it is probably, I would guess, west of the Mississippi might be the finest range in the country.
It may be, and I'm sure it's in the top five. I mean, over the years, they've trained 75,000 law enforcement agents. They have another school in Mississippi. Um, but more so than that, than just the facilities and the equipment, it's the experience.
Hmm.
I mean, when you're training the best of the best since the mid 1980s up till now, you've got a ton of experience, and that's what they bring to the table, and then they've done it right. I mean, the range blows your mind. I was actually talking to you, so I don't know if we're going to be able to pull it off. We're talking about doing an open house so people can just, because you don't get an idea of the vastness
Hmm.
of that range until you're standing there. You're like, wow, this just goes on and on and on and on. So we're talking about that, but I think the biggest point to touch base on again is continue to pull the trigger on that gun. Continue to dry fire in your home. Continue to practice your draw. Continue to do all those things, but you don't even know what to practice until you've taken a class.
Hmm.
And all you're doing if you practice the wrong things is developing training scars.
We talked about that. We made the analogy the other day to Tim Tebow. He learned to throw the football in a manner that was wrong, and it wasn't. He couldn't do it in the NFL with the speed and quickness that they needed, but because he just could not get over that old muscle memory of throwing it like a javelin.
Yep, exactly. And luck, he was a good enough athlete to get him through college. When it came to the pro level, his athleticism wasn't enough. He needed the skills to carry him further, and he just didn't. It's not that he couldn't develop the skills, it's just he had done it wrong so long that it was hard to break. That's why most women, once we train them, become better shooters than men because they haven't shot a lot prior to that, so they don't have any bad habits. So the first time they learn to shoot the right way. They learn how to hold the gun the right way. They've never said, "Oh, my dad showed me how to do this," or "I watched Gunsmoke," or "I watched TJ Hooker and this is how they did it." Well, that's not right. The right way to do it. So, best thing is learn from someone that knows. Let them show you the grip, let them show you the trigger manipulation, let them show you the sight picture, let them show you the draw the right way. And then you know what to practice. So then when you go out on your own, you're practicing the right things because you're going out and practicing the wrong things. All you're doing is developing these what they call training scars. And you're just training your body to do the wrong thing. And then when it matters, you're going to do the wrong thing.
We have a short break coming up, but we've got more in just a moment. And want to point out Forrest Andersen is joining us from Washington Street Pawn here in Twin Falls. Actually, in the next segment, we'll mention exactly where that is too as well, because if you don't get enough on the show, you might want to drop in and get more from Forrest later today or through the weekend and next week. In the meantime, it's 20 after 9. Right now it's 56. Bill Colley with you as well on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Forrest Andersen is in the studio with us this morning from Washington Street Pawn. We do this on Friday mornings. And of course, he takes some time as well to walk us through a few things that people should know when it comes to the usage and ownership and the training when it comes to firearms. And obviously, this is a huge topic in Idaho because across the country, everyone now knows that we have permitless carry. And there aren't many places doing that. We're among just a handful of states. You were mentioning, though, that we have another resource for training right here in the local area, too, that people could really take advantage of, and it's not going to bust their budget either.
No, I mean, like we talked about, you need to go take a class from a good trainer. You need to go see Houston, set up, take a class, spend some money, and just do it right and learn the fundamentals. Then we have something in the valley that I'm a huge proponent of. It's called the Magic Valley Practical Shooting Association. They are on Facebook and they shoot out at the Jerome Range. They actually have their own range out at that Jerome Shooting Complex right off Highway 93. They shoot the first and third Saturdays of every month at 9 in the morning. And what they do is they set up walls, they set up, all these little stages, individual stages. Maybe you shoot 20, 25 rounds per stage. Sometimes you start out sitting in a chair, sometimes you start out, you know, walking. They're not really difficult. Anyone can do these. They're set up for all levels. My 9-year-old can go out there and do these. The first time you go out, it's free to shoot. If you want to buy a lifetime membership, it's $50 or $60 a year. The awesome thing about that is when you buy the membership, they give you access to the targets in the range whenever you want. So you could take your family out there on a Thursday evening when nothing's going on and get in a trailer and use the targets and do some shooting. The great thing about this is if you shoot those Tuesdays and Thursdays, you pay your membership and it's $10 to shoot. But somebody's already set up all the ranges for you. You know, they have the timers, everything. So you show up, there's a bunch of really knowledgeable people there who shoot out there all the time. They'll put a clock on you. You know, you'll get a practice doing mag changes and moving while you're shooting and moving around corners and shooting through windows and all those things. And it's a ton of fun. The guides are super great. And if you wanted a chance to view that this Saturday night at 6 o'clock out there, we're meeting and we're doing a shoot. And we're going to do a night shoot. So we're going to do a shoot in the daylight. We're going to have a barbecue. And then when it gets dark, we're going to put our flashlights on our guns and we're going to have a night shoot. So if you just wanted to come out and kind of say, I just want to see this and see what it's about, come check it out. It's very safety oriented. To do it, all you need is a gun, a holster, and 3 magazines. And it's addicting. I will tell you that. Once you do it once, you'll want to keep doing it for sure.
Especially as you get more proficient, because you can start to see your own progress. And I think that's where the addictive part of it comes in.
Exactly. I mean, as you progress and as you get better, you know, all you want to do is like, okay, I got to get a better gun now. I got to get, you know, this and that. That competitive side comes out in you. There are a lot of guys that just go out there and shoot for fun. Like their time doesn't matter. Their hit factor doesn't matter. They're just out there to get some trigger time with some other knowledgeable people who maybe if they ask them, say, hey, what am I doing wrong here? Well, we need to fix your grip like this or that. It's a great way to get weekly practice in a fun environment and with a little pressure because once you have a timer on you, once there's other people watching, you know, it kind of simulates a high pressure situation because it's a little more pressure than just standing out there by yourself shooting because there's other people watching, there's a timer, and you see people who thought, well, I'm a great shooter, but as soon as they turn the timer on, they're dropping their magazines in the dirt, they're missing the target completely, they're jumping that trigger and running right through the wall and doing these things that they've never done. Why? Because there's a little pressure. And I guarantee you, if you have to defend yourself, you're going to be feeling that adrenaline and you're going to be feeling a little bit of pressure. This is a great way to simulate that and a great way to practice with a bunch of people that are super nice and super kind and very helpful.
Got about a minute before the next break. You can stick around for 5 more minutes afterward, right?
Absolutely.
Before we get to the break, though, your own Facebook page, because people who'd like to know more about your shop, Washington Street Pawn, go to that Facebook page, and I mean, there's just tons of photographs and other details and information there.
Yeah, we try to have fun with our Facebook page and we'll put some silliness on there. And if you've seen our commercials, you know, if you're on YouTube, just go on YouTube and type in Washington Street Pawn. You can watch our silly commercials and things that we do. And on Facebook, we try to put some value deals that we have every day. We also try to put some information out there. But yeah, we're at 321 Washington Street right here in Twin Falls. 735-0012 is our phone number. You know, stop by. If you just want to stop in and just poke around and ask some questions, do that. Bring your gun in. We take trades. So if you bought a gun, and you're like, oh, this was a mistake. Bring it in. We'll take it in trade and get you into something that you like.
We've got more coming up with Forrest Andersen in just a moment on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Right now it's 60. Wow, we've had a big spike in the temperature. It's 9:30. Bill Colley with you as well on KLIX. Stick around. Our guest in the studio, Forrest Andersen, is the owner of Washington Street Pawn here in Twin Falls, Idaho. And of course, he's also a man who can talk in depth about the use of firearms. Question I've got for you, people coming into the shop, and because so many people now are thinking about doing this, you're going to ask them questions, and you're not prying, you're just trying to find out, number one, what their goal is. Is it for concealed carry, or is it for home defense, or is it for hunting? Is it for target shooting? Going out to the range, because a range gun is often different than what you might carry on your person. You're going to ask a lot of questions because your goal is to find out. You just mentioned a few minutes ago. Sometimes people come in and they say, "I bought this. It's really not what I." It turns out it's not what I needed, what I was looking for. So you're going to have a ton of questions for people in order to try to narrow down what's best for them.
Yeah, and my theory is I would rather sell you 10 guns at a great price and things that you're happy with than sell you one gun that was the most expensive and I somehow got you to buy it. The best gun is not always the most expensive guns. And people have it in their mind, well, this one's more money. Well, with firearms, that doesn't matter. We have to find a gun that fits your hand, that fits your criteria, what I'm going to use it for. Maybe somebody wants, because I would not buy a 357 stub nose revolver for home defense. There's too much collateral damage. There's a lot of flash. So if you had to shoot that in a low light situation, you'd basically flashbang yourself, and it's really loud. But if I was going backpacking in bear country, that might be a great application for that gun. So everything's got its own application, and we kind of want to weigh those with you. We want to find out exactly how you carry. And like I said, it may be a $250 gun that fits your needs the best. It doesn't have to be a, $1,200 Kimber. There is a whole bunch of great guns in that middle category. Last year we had a great deal where we sold the Taurus PT-111s. We were selling them for $200, and we sold 900 of those guns. But the thing was, and we had people from all over the state. We were shipping those things all over because it was such a great deal. But that was a great little gun. 9mm, double stack 13 round. Wasn't the most expensive gun, but they are very reliable and very accurate. We sold a ton of them. And there's a lot of deals like that every day, but people just need to come in and check with us, and we'll scour our distributors and see what's out there. But the biggest thing is, let's find what you're going to use it for, what your shooting experience is, you know, how you're going to carry it, and then we can find something that fits you perfectly.
But my dad, his service revolver was a snub-nose 38. And so when he was on patrol, that was what he was comfortable with. And he was also about 6.5 feet tall. So it was small. So he didn't have a problem when he was strapped into the car carrying that. But he also, in his own personal vehicle, he kept a 1911 in his glove compartment. Now, that was obviously for different use. That was if you're out somewhere and you encounter something, he wanted something powerful. And he wanted some stopping power. The 38 though was essentially built because you could be comfortable on the job.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it wasn't built to engage targets at 100 meters. It's just to, let's face it, most police officers never fire their gun in their entire career
Mm-hmm.
in defense. Maybe for qualifying, but those guns were built so detectives could defend themselves if they needed to, but something comfortable to carry.
The thing with it, the short barrel though, is you're not going to. It is really for close proximity because with the shorter the barrel, you're not getting the accuracy.
Yeah, it's just line of sight. You have 2 points that you're lining up. If you have 2 points that are an inch away from each other, there's more margin for error than if you have 2 small points that are 8 inches away from each other. When you line those two things up, you're going to be more accurate. I mean, we shot at that target at 30 yards the other day, and actually you did really good. Most people wouldn't be able to hit that, and we gave you 5 shots and you hit it. But what it also illustrated is that's something that to be proficient at something like that, you gotta have some trigger time. You gotta have some trigger behind your gun, behind your trigger.
We talked about this. We got about a minute to go here, but we talked about this the other day. It's not enough to scare somebody by the sound of the report. That's because just scaring them may not be enough.
I tell people, I said, if you produce a firearm, most of the time, that's going to take care of the situation. If you have to fire the firearm, whether you hit or not, a lot of times, people are like, my life is not worth whatever I'm trying to get from this person. But the important thing to note is whenever you grab that firearm and you pull it, you have to realize when that bullet comes out the end, something's going to most likely get destroyed. So before you make that decision, you need to be damn sure that that's what you're going to do. You need to be prepared once you pull it to shoot it, because if you pull it and aren't prepared to pull the trigger, that person's going to take it away from you, and then they're going to use it on you.
Got about 10 seconds. The address again at Washington Street Pawn.
321 Washington Street, Twin Falls, Facebook, Washington Street Pawn.
We'll see you again next Friday morning, just after 9 o'clock.
Actually, we're going to make arrangements. I'm going to have someone stand in for me. I'm going to be on the beach in Mexico.
Oh, very nice. A little sunshine. down in Mexico before the end of summer.
Absolutely.
All right, super. Thank you for coming by. Got about 15 minutes to go. Bill Colley with you as well on News Radio 1310, KLIX and News Radio 1310 10.com. Right now it's 60.